Hello and welcome to the WP Owners Club. This is module number 1, the WordPress overview. I'm Neil Matthews from wpdo.com, and without any further ado, let's move straight on to the agenda for today's module. So here's our agenda. We're going to look at what is WordPress. We're going to talk about the history and the origins of the actual WordPress site, a little bit about what it's built upon, that kind of thing. And then we're going to move on to what WordPress can do for you. It's not just a blogging tool, it can be used for multiple uses. I'm going to take you through those. Benefits, and of course the downsides of using WordPress as your website development tool. After that, I'm going to move on to WordPress concepts. That's probably going to be the biggest part of this presentation. I'm going to take you through the various concepts that make up a WordPress site. This is going to act as a springboard for future modules, so it's going to give you a complete overview of how WordPress fits together and all the keywords and buzzwords that we're going to be using through the rest of the modules. After that, I'll give you a demonstration. First of all, I'm going to install WordPress. I'm going to show you how to get a copy of WordPress, download it, install it onto your hosting platform, and then do a build. After that, I'm going to log into that newly built site, this basic development site that we're going to build, and take you through the dashboard and reinforce the concepts I'm going to talk about in a live demonstration. At the end of that, I'll give a question and answer session. Estimated time 60 to 90 minutes depending upon the number of questions I get asked. So, what is WordPress? In a sentence, it is open source blog software. Open source means that the software is freely available to you. Unlike companies like Microsoft or IBM who sell you software and then sell you an annual maintenance contract, open source software is freely available. You can download it, you can edit the source code, you can do whatever you like with it as long as you keep within the licensing agreement. What WordPress really does is it removes the complexity of building a website. In the past, you had to understand static HTML files, how to code up, how to use CSS files. Nowadays with WordPress, you just download the files, upload it, install a theme, install some plugins, and start creating content, and there's a website built. It's rapid and quickly deploy new websites. WordPress is built upon two technologies. The first is PHP, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, or Hypertext Processor Language, I think. I'll have to double check that. That's an open source development language. So all the code, all the scripts are developed in PHP. WordPress also uses another technology called MySQL. MySQL is a database. So all of your content, all your post pages and all your website configuration is saved into a MySQL database. Again, MySQL is open source, so we have free website software, free development language, and a free database. I did some research when I was building these slides to find out exactly when WordPress first came onto the scene, and my estimation is it started back in 2003. So what's that tell us? It tells us that this blogging software has been around for 8 years. That's an awful long time in the IT world. I've known systems come and go within 3 or 4 years even. So to be around 8 years means it's gone through a lot of developments. It means it's very stable. It's not a brand new shiny bleeding edge tool. It's been tested, it's been widely used and rolled out, developed and consistently developed for 8 years. So that to me says this is a platform we can rely on and use going into the future. The company behind WordPress is called Automatic. They don't own WordPress. It's open source, as I said. It's freely available to anybody. But the core development team and a lot of the support people work in Automatic. They're the drivers behind WordPress. Got an interesting stat for you there. It's estimated that 13% of the websites on the internet are built with WordPress. So that's millions and millions of sites. We're in good company using WordPress as our chosen tool of website development. WordPress comes in two flavors. .org, WordPress.org, or WordPress.com. We're going to concentrate on .org in this training program. Just to quickly explain the difference. .org is a downloadable and self-hosted version of WordPress, so you get a copy of it and you install it onto your own site. Whereas .com is a hosted version of WordPress. You go to WordPress.com, you open an account, and you get access to a hosted version of WordPress. You don't have to do any updates, you don't have to install any themes or plugins, but you're very limited to what you can do. So you only have a certain number of themes, you only have a certain number of plugins. .org gives you a huge amount of flexibility, so that's what we're going to concentrate going forward. So what can WordPress do for you? Obviously it's a blogging platform. You can install it and use it as a weblog, but it's not just that. That's something very important to point out to you. It can be used as a CMS or a content management system for a standard static website. So in the past you would have developed umpteen pages of static content and pushed it onto your website. Using WordPress you don't need to. You install it, drop in a theme, create 4 or 5 or 6 pages, and there's your website built. So you can use it as a CMS. It's also really good as a portfolio for images or art or photography. WordPress has a media library, so you can upload images and video and that kind of thing. And using a couple of plugins, you can make WordPress act as a portfolio site for you. It's good as a podcasting or a broadcasting platform. Again, using the media library, you can upload audio files and integrate them with tools such as iTunes, Apple iTunes, and then allow people to subscribe to your podcast, all from a WordPress platform. There's many ways to embed video in a WordPress site. So if you're a vlogger, a video blogger, you can use WordPress not as a just text only platform, but as a video serving platform. Member sites, as you've seen on the WP Owners Club, we've got the members only site. Add a couple of plugins and you can charge people for content. You can make a members only area and protect certain bits of content inside that. And lastly, e-commerce sites. There are various plugins to allow you to use WordPress as an online shop. Upload your products, connect to something like PayPal, and you can start taking e-commerce transactions. And at the bottom I said anything else it is that customizable. If you can think of a job that a normal website would do, you can probably do it with WordPress. Benefits of WordPress. The big one at the top, it's free. I've worked in big corporate IT departments who were building internet facing systems, and they would buy software from companies like IBM. I remember I used one product called WebSphere, which did a fairly similar job to WordPress, and that was £10,000 per processor per year. We rolled it out across a number of servers. There was about a dozen processors, so we're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds. WordPress is free and it does nearly the same job. So that to me is the biggest selling point of WordPress. It's widely supported. 13% of the internet is running on WordPress. All of the hosting, the major hosting platforms support WordPress already, so you're not going to find a problem getting hosting so you can upload and create your site. Huge user base, again 13% of the internet, millions of people are using it, millions of people trust it, it's been tested, widely adopted, so it's not a small little niche bit of software. There's a big community developing the product, so obviously you've got the core WordPress development team. They're constantly updating and developing WordPress, but also the themes and plugin developers out there. So there's thousands of people writing and extending and expanding WordPress and taking it forward into the future. Last but not least, it's open, so you're not tied to a company. So in the past you would have been tied to IBM or Microsoft, and sometimes they have shady practices of forcing upgrades on you and increasing prices, that kind of thing. It's open, you're not tied to a company, so you don't get any of that kind of negative activity. Downside of WordPress, I'm a great advocate of WordPress, but there are a couple of downsides. The first is no official support. With commercial software, you buy it and you would expect to get support. You'd expect to get on the phone to somebody and log a call. With WordPress, it's all done on a volunteer basis. There are various support forums for you to log your call, but they're just manned by volunteers. You can't expect a reply. You usually get one, but it's not on a timely basis. There's no service level agreements. There's nothing like that. You often find you have to go out to third-party companies such as my own to get support for WordPress. You can't go to the core team and get it. The second downside is there's no central control of code. So if you imagine we've got the core of WordPress, and then we've got people out there developing plugins and themes. There are often, well not often, now and again there are clashes between plugins and themes and plugins and the central or core WordPress files. The quality of the code can't be guaranteed because anyone can develop anything, and there's no QA of that code. So sometimes we do get clashes and problems because of the code. The solution to that, there usually is, you drop out a piece of plugin or you swap your theme. There's usually a way around that, but just be aware that there can be incompatibilities between code. So now we're going to move on to the WordPress concepts. This is going to be pretty wordy, but don't worry about that. If you don't get the concept at first, I'm going to give you a demonstration further into this module, which will hopefully clarify the concepts I'm going to talk about now. So the first concept I want you to think about is the fact that there is a front end and a back end to WordPress. The front end is the view that your site visitor gets. It's your theme, your colors, your font sizes, how your content's laid out, your logo, your images, that kind of thing. All of that is classed as the front end. But there's also a back end. The back end is where you would log in and manage your site. That's where you do your administration tasks, adding themes, adding plugins, that kind of thing. When you log into the back end, there's a dashboard. The dashboard is a series of menus and widgets where you can manage, edit, add, delete all sorts of components of your site. As I said, we'll be logging in and looking at the back end in the demonstration very soon. WordPress content is made up of three things. The first two are posts and pages, which are generated by you or your team, and the other type of content is user generated content, which comes in the form of comments. So let's look at posts and pages first. Pages are static and key bits of content that are on your site. These aren't updated very regularly and will sit and act as key pointers to people who visit your site. Let me give you some ideas of the kind of pages people build. They build contact pages, about pages, giving them information about what the site's all about. My own example, I have service pages. So if people want to buy services from me or products from me, I have those as pages. They're key bits of content. The other content is a post. Posts are updated far more regularly. They are more like news items on your site. So they're added regularly, updated often, and as one is added to the top of your site, one will drop off the bottom in a sort of a carousel of content that's added. The other type of content is user-generated content, and that comes in the form of comments. So if you've created a particularly appealing piece of content, somebody will read that and say, yes, I agree with that, and what they can do is leave a comment against that post. In the past, websites were fairly static, so you created your content and pushed it out, people consumed that content, and that was it. But now when you use social media sites and blogging platforms, people expect a two-way dialogue. That's where comments come in. You push your content out, people read that, interact with it by leaving a comment, and that discussion starts to happen. That's really, really good for your site. If you can start building a community that has this back and forth discussion, it's going to make your site more sticky, bring people back over and over again. content can be organized inside of a WordPress site, and we've got three concepts I want to explain here. They are categories, tags, and archives. Let's look at categories and tags first. I like to think of them in a book analogy. Think of categories as a table of contents. As you add a page, or a post rather, or a page to a book, that gets added to the table of contents. You can also tag that page in the glossary at the back of your book, which would be what a tag is. So you go to the back of the book, look at the glossary for widgets, and there's three references. Categories, table of contents, tags as a glossary. The other way to organize your content is via an archive. Archives are monthly divisions of your posts. So as you add a post, it's automatically added to that particular month archive. So at the minute we're in March 2011 as I create this module. So anything I write will be added automatically to March 2011 archive. Now, if somebody visited my site 6 months ago and found a post they liked, then they come back now, they could then go to my archives, go to 6 months ago, say, I don't know what that would be, September 2010, click on that, they brought back a list of all the posts I wrote back in September, and then they can easily find the one they're looking for. That's what archives are for. Moving on with our concepts, the next thing to talk about is a WordPress theme. A WordPress theme is a skin or a look and feel for your site. There are thousands of themes available. There's free themes. You can buy premium themes from companies such as woothemes.com, or you can go off and have a developer write a custom theme for you. So you employ a designer developer to create the exactly the look and feel that you want. Themes come as a series of files that you install into your system. You can have multiple themes installed into a WordPress site, but only one active at any one time. Another concept that goes hand in hand with the theme is the sidebar widget pairing. Most WordPress sites have a sidebar, or can have more than one sidebars, and into them you'll put something called a widget. A widget is a component of data. So for example, you could add an archive widget or a category widget into your sidebar and allow people to navigate your site using those. As you add more plugins into your site, I'm going to talk about plugins next, new widgets become available to you. I'm going to take you through adding widgets and rearranging widgets in the sidebar in the demonstration that's coming up very soon. Next concept is plugins. Plugins are an extension of WordPress, a little bit of code that's added in to extend WordPress to give you a new set of functions. So imagine you've got the core suite of WordPress functionality, which allows you to add posts, that kind of thing. But then there's another job you want to do. People write plugins to extend WordPress to give you that functionality. Let's give you an example. I use MailChimp as my email provider. And I have a plugin from them which allows me to add an email sign-up form into my sidebar. So MailChimp have written that plugin, made it available for me to download, install into WordPress, then I can add a sidebar widget. Somebody comes to my site, signs up, and that data is pushed into my email provider. So that's an example of a plugin. Moving on, media. I've already touched on this. WordPress is a multimedia tool. It's not just text. In the back end, you'll find there's this media library where you can upload and manage all sorts of different media types. You can have images, video, audio. You can also upload text documents like PDF files or Word documents. Any sort of media type you can upload and store in the media library. Last thing I want to touch on is this idea of storage. Two types of storage with a WordPress site. The first is in a database. We've discussed that WordPress runs with MySQL. So into that database you'll save things like post data, page data, comments, any WordPress settings, so email addresses of users, any plugin and any theming data. That's all saved into a database. We also have a file store. So the file store comprises the actual WordPress core files, any plugins and themes that you upload into your site, and also any media files, so any images, videos, that kind of thing. They're also saved on a file store on your hosting account. So two types of storage: database for variable information and file store for actual files. Okay, enough chat, let's move on to the demonstration. First of all, I'm going to install WordPress. I'm going to take you through obtaining a set of WordPress files, downloading them from wordpress.org. Then I'm going to show you how to FTP or upload them to your site. Then I'm going to step you through the installation process. First, I'll need to create a new database. Then I need to add that database information to a config file and then run the install. Sounds a lot, but it's a lot simpler than you think. Once that basic WordPress install is built, I'll give you a tour of the front end before logging into the dashboard and giving you a complete tour of the back end of the site, which will hopefully explain the concepts I've been through in a lot more detail. Let's start the install. First thing I need to do is go to wordpress.org. I'll just pause here for a moment and say that if you use one of the major hosting companies such as GoDaddy, Bluehost, HostGator, HostMonster, any of those type of companies, you'll probably find that you have something called a one-click install for WordPress. That means you won't have to go through this process of downloading and manually uploading files to your hosting account. You go through the one-click installer and it will do all this for you. But I think it's quite important to give you a background and an idea of how to do a manual install, just so you have the complete picture. So what we do, go to wordpress.org, click on download. Current version is WordPress 3.1, but the very latest version will be made available to you. Click on download. As you can see, the file is downloaded. Take a couple minutes, and there it is there. Let's just open that up. So what you get is a set of script files and some directories. So WP admin and W includes our system files, and we also get WP content. So this would be where you store your themes and your plugins. We'll get a couple of default themes and a couple of default test plugins that come with WordPress by default. So once you've downloaded it, unpack it and open up your FTP clients. I'm using FileZilla here, but it really will depend upon whether you're using a Mac or a PC, what you use. So here it is on my local PC. I've uncompressed the zip file, and what we need to do is select all that and copy them up to our hosting account. I've already done that. That takes about 15 minutes from my PC. I'm sure you don't want to sit through that boring process. So unpack it, upload it. Once we've done that, we need to create a database. So I'm going to move over to my Bluehost hosting account and take you through that. It will depend upon your particular hosting config, but most have a set of database tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the database wizard and create a new database for our install. I'm going to call it WPOC, WordPress Owners Club. And it also asks, next stage, asks me to create a user to connect to that database. I'm just going to give it the same name. I'm going to use the strong password generator. Let me just copy that. Use that password. Let's just open a notepad. Make sure we have a copy of that. And that's the name of the database as well. Just take a copy of them for the process in a few minutes time. So let's create that user. Next stage is to grant permissions to that user. I'm going to give it all permissions because it's an admin level user. And that is it. So what have I done? Let's just recap. I've uploaded WordPress to my hosting account. I've created a database. Now we need to do the install. So this is where I'm going to build my site. So it's devwpdo.com/WPOC. And it says that this is a new install. I haven't got a configuration file. The configuration file is wp-config, and its job is to hold credentials that will enable us to connect to the database. So let's create a configuration file. So it's telling us what we need. We need database name, database username, password, etc., etc. Let's go. So the database name is that's the one we just created. The username is the same. Let's get the password that we stored. Now, database host, 99 times out of 100, you're just going to leave that as local host. Please check with your hosting company if they use something other than localhost. Now, table prefix. This process is going to create about a dozen tables, and each is going to be prefixed with the word WP_. Now, for example, we're going to have a user table called WP_users. Hackers know that the default table prefix is WP_. So what I recommend is you make their job a little bit harder by changing the prefix. I'm just going to change it to WP_WPOC_. It just adds an additional layer of control so the hackers can't get into your site as easily. Click on submit. What's happened now is it's checked if it can connect to the database, and it has, because it's come to this page. If there's a problem with the user ID or password, you will get an error. But let's just run the install. Give it the site title. Give it a password. Provide an email address. Email address is used for all your sort of admin notifications. Last but not least, we've got a checkbox here saying, do I want site to appear in the search engines? If you're in development, or if your site is under development and you don't want it to appear in the search engines yet, uncheck that. This is just a development site for me, so I don't want to go into Google, so I'll uncheck it. And last but not least, let's install WordPress. That's it. It doesn't take long once we've gone through that process. Now if we connect to the front end of this site, there we have it, a very basic install of WordPress. We've got a couple of pages along the top, one sample post, and that has a test comment on it. Let's just have a quick tour of the front end. As I mentioned in the concepts, we have an idea of a sidebar. There's the sidebar here, and these little bits of data, they are the widgets. They can be configured in the back end. We'll be doing that in a few minutes, but just to give you a feel. So for example, there's the archive. Click on that and it brings back all the posts from March 2011. As the site grows older, more and more archive months will be added automatically to the sidebar. Got the header up here with some images and the site title, and down here we have the footer, which has got just some very basic information, the site name and a link back to WordPress. So that's a tour of the front end. What we can do is go into the back end now. To access the back end of a WordPress site, we need to tag the word wp-admin onto the end of the URL. So that tells the site that we'll want to get into the back end dashboard. Let's just log in. Once we're authenticated, we go straight into the back end dashboard. So let's have a quick look around. We've got a series of menus down the left, and when we click into one, we'll be given a series of widgets in the middle. Often you can move these about, so put recent drafts or other WordPress news could be moved over there. We can also delete certain widgets if we don't want them with these screen options up here. Let's get rid of other WordPress news, for example. There it is, it's gone. So widgets can be moved about and removed to your heart's content. Let's start moving through the concepts I talked about. The first ones I'm going to talk about are posts and pages. So there's the post menu here, and a little bit further down we've got the pages. Let's have a look. I've only got one post at the minute, hello world. Let's add a new one to give you a feel of what that's like. Test, test, we'll just say test. What we have here is like a cut down word processor. We can just type away at our content, highlight it, perhaps make it italic. Very much like a desktop word processor. I'm going to cover this in much greater detail in the next module, all about contents. So I'll just briefly skirt over this. Click on publish, and we've added a new blog post. Let's have a look at the front end now. There's our second post that's dropped in at the top, and it's pushed hello world down. It's in this reverse chronological news type format that we talked about. Let's get a list of the posts up. We can move it to trash. From here we can do a quick edit, where we can change the title, we can add it into categories, change the dates, that kind of thing. Or we could go into edit to revise that particular post. Let's put another test in there. Go back to the post list. We have details of who wrote it, if it's in any categories, if it's any tags, and the date it was written. So this is in date order. We've got various filters up here. So if you've got hundreds of posts, it becomes quite difficult to find them. So you could search for them in a particular month or search for them from a category. We've also got a text search over here to create filters like that. So that's posts. Pages, very similar. Down here we have the pages section. At the minute we've just got one page. Let's add a new one. For example, a contact page. Click on publish. And if we refresh the front end, there's our new page. Click on contact, and there we have it. Moving back to organization, there's the category, and there is the tag management section. So if we click on categories, we can add a new one. Let's call it news, for example. Add that category. Now if we can start assigning posts into that category. Let's put hello world into news. Again, exactly the same thing for tags. That's it. A widget tag. Again, add a post. Quick edit. Widget like that. Tags are much more free form than categories. So you have to go in and formally create categories, whereas with tags are not as formalized. So I could create a new tag on the fly by calling it Widgets, like that. And we see that that new tag has been created as well. So that's posts and pages and the way they're organized in a nutshell. We're going to be going into much greater depth in the next module. So let's move on to comments now. So down here we have the comment moderation queue. Whoops, let me just go back in there. Comment moderation queue. So we've got this test comment here. Let's add a new one. just to give you a feel for how this works. So on the contact page, I'm adding a new comment. Because I'm logged in as administrator, it's automatically approved. I'll just unapprove it to show you what happens on a comment from a normal user. First thing it's done, it's moved to a pending queue. What that means is it won't show up on the front end of your site until it's been approved. So what we can do is we can click on approve, or if we don't like that comment, we could delete it. Let me just go back to the front end because I've approved it. We could trash it. If it's a spam comment, some links back to some low quality site, you can mark it as spam. Once some things goes into the spam queue, any further comments from that person are automatically junked. So you use that with caution, make sure that it is a spam comment. You can edit the comments, so remember you have complete editorial control over your own site. So if you didn't like the words comment, for example, you could delete it, update it. You can also reply to a comment to create a to and fro to the conversation. So I'm saying my reply, like that. Now if we refresh this page, you can see there's the original comment that's been edited, and then my reply, it's indented to show that it's a reply to the one above it. So we can get a threaded discussion going inside the comments. And of course we can move comments to trash if we don't want them. So that's comments. Moving on, media and the media library. Let's have a look at that. So nothing in the media library at the minute. What I'm going to do is add some new content. Click on add new and select file. What we're going to do is upload some content from my local PC. Let's just grab a random image. So what's happening, it's been taken off my local PC, uploaded into the site and made available on a URL like this. Let's have a look. There we have it. So on dev.wpdude.com, WPOC, we have a full URL for that image. That image can be used in posts, in pages, it can be used in your theme files, in fact anywhere on your WordPress site. Remember, not just images, we can upload videos, audio, PDF documents, Word documents, anything you want, anything you can think of can be uploaded and used on your WordPress site. Moving on to the appearance section. This is where your themes live and your widgets. So let's look at themes first of all. As I said, you can have multiple themes installed on your site. At the minute we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, but only one active. So at the minute we have this 2010 as our active theme. If we were to activate another one, Evanescence for example, simple as that. We've activated a new theme, press refresh, and you can see the complete look and feel has been changed. So now we've got this blue background instead of the image at the top. Still got our sidebar. To add new themes, we've got an install button. You can upload them. So if you've bought a premium theme, you're going to find it comes as a zip file. You can upload it there, or you can do a search on the free themes that are available. Let's look for an orange one, for example. There we have all the themes that are available to us. I like this harvest one. Let's install that. And then activate it. There we have it. The look and feel has been changed completely again. It's all orange. We've got these images. We've got a sidebar on the left now. Themes are such a complex topic. It has a module of its own. So let's just go back to the default one. We'll be talking much more in depth about themes, how to get them, how to configure them, that kind of thing in that module. One more thing to talk about is the sidebar. So sidebar widgets are held here. Let me just check if I... Yes, I have. Here are the various sidebars that are available to this site. What we can do is move the widgets about if we want. We can add new ones, delete them. So for example, we didn't want the meta widget, I've taken that off, which is that widget there. See, it's dropped off the bottom. If we wanted a tag cloud, we just drag it over and drop it in like that. Give it a title. What I want you to take away from this little demonstration is it's very easy to add and move items to, there's a tag cloud there, to the sidebar. As you add new plugins, which we're going to talk about in a few moments, you'll find that the new widgets are made available to you. So, without further ado, let's move on to the plugins section. I've already installed a number of plugins to give you a feel for what you can do. For example, Akismet is an anti-spam plugin. It's been installed. We can activate it. There it is. That's activated now. Deactivate it. We can look at the settings for the particular plugin. So in the case of Akismet, we need an API key. We can add new plugins with this option at the top. So for example, if I wanted a Twitter plugin, click on search, install now, activate it, and now I have this new widget that will connect to my Twitter account. So the idea there is to show you how easy it is to install plugins. I'm going to take you through finding and using and configuring plugins in its own module. Just want to skirt over the top and give you an idea of the plugin process. So remember, there are extensions to WordPress to give you additional functionality. So you can see we've got 12 installed, we've got 2 active, 10 active, and if we've got any updates available. I'm going to talk about updates in a minute. So that's the plugin interface. Next, we're going to look at users. WordPress has built-in multi-user capability. At the minute we've just got one admin user, so let's add another one. We'll call it Neil. Give it a password. And the last thing to do is give it a role. We've got a number of roles inside of WordPress, starting at the top, which is administrator. An administrator can do anything on your site, so all the content work, all the themes, all the plugins, all the admin type thing. Moving down, we've got an editor who has complete control over all the posts and pages. Can't do any of the admin jobs like adding themes or adding plugins. Moving down, author. They have complete control of their own content, so they can create and publish their own stuff, but they can't touch anybody else's. And lastly, contributor. They can add content to the site, but they can't publish it. So it's got this idea of an editorial layer above people. And of course, it's got a subscriber. That's somebody who just reads the front end of your site. They can't add any content. So there's Neil. Again, we're going to go through an entire module all about users and roles. Moving on, we've got quickly skip over the tools. We've got some import and export functions, so you can import posts from other systems, or you can export your posts to other systems. The last thing to talk about here is the setting option. Let's have a look at the general settings. So we've got the site title and email addresses, that kind of thing. Just to let you know, there's a settings section down here where various options within your site are set. Let's have a look at reading. For example, we can set how many blog posts show on the front of your site. As you add new plugins, you'll get new options appearing in your settings. We'll go through any particular settings that we need to know about in the appropriate module. For example, discussions all about comments. When I get to the comments module, I'll take you through those in depth. Just wanted to make you aware that there is a settings section down here, and that is how we control site-wide options. Last part of this demonstration, I want to tell you about the update options. This is a huge advancement in WordPress recently. Before version 2.5, I think it was, you had to download and manually update all of your files, all of your plugins, all of your theme files, one at a time. With later versions of WordPress, we've got this amazing update facility. So what it does is it keeps track on all your plugins, on your core WordPress, on your theme files, and if they become out of date, a new version is released, it knows by checking against a version repository, and it gives you a list of things that need to be updated. So as we can see, WP Filebase is out of date. What we can do is select it, click on update, and that plugin has been automatically updated for us. It's gone off to the file repository, downloaded the files, added them into the site, updated the existing plugin, removed the old plugin files, and done that job in a few seconds for us. If we had multiple plugins out of date, or if we had WordPress out of date, they would all appear here, and we could do a core update of everything. It takes a few minutes as opposed to hours as it used to. Okay, that's the end of the overview. I'm going to jump back to the presentation now. Let's just have a quick recap. We've looked at what is WordPress. We've seen, or we've talked a little bit about the history of it, who's behind WordPress. We've looked at benefits and what WordPress can do for you. We've been through all these core WordPress concepts, and then we back that up with a demonstration. I showed you the installation and then a tour of the dashboard. So the next session is all about content. We're going to look at creating and managing your posts and pages and your comments. So we're looking at comment moderation, anti-spam techniques. So that'll be in the next session. That just leaves me to open to the floor to any questions.